that's solved for Rome. That's good. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's HAL SPARKS Mornings Mega Worldwide. I'm doing a quick workaround on the tech for the show because for some reason our normal throughput restream is being odd this morning. It needed a little finagling. I had to cross the streams, so we're. But we'll be good in just a couple minutes. Hit that like, share the show. Our dear friend Tara Dublin, who does Indeed Rock, I think is in with us second hour. But starting off this hour with us is a gentleman. Let's see, make sure I can bring this up. Is William Corey Amyx. By the way, do I refer to you as William or Corey? What's
I go by Corey.
Excellent.
I tell everybody the telemarketers call me William. My friends and family call me Corey. So
gotcha. Well, all right, that works just fine. Welcome. So you're running for office in Indiana, currently against in a district that is currently held by a Republican. These are my favorite kinds of races because I feel personally that the DNC and the Democrats have one job right now, and that is to turn red districts purple and purple districts blue.
Right.
That's it. So tell me a little bit about your race and you know your odds and your kind of your main theme that you think will is going to help you the most in this, and then we'll get into a piece of legislation that you've been pushing that deals with our online experience. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to know more about I want people to know more about your candidacy, how they can help, and what your main focuses are that you think can really give you some ground.
Sure. My name is Corey Amyx. I live in Indiana. I'm running for the Indiana's 6th Congressional District. I'm running against Congressman Jefferson Shreve, who happens to be the richest man in Congress right now. He spent close to $6 million on his campaign last year. So that's who I'm running against. It is a deeply red state, but I do believe it's something that we can overcome. And kind of like you said, Hal, we can flip this district to purple very easily by talking with constituents. Something that I've spent a lot of time knocking on doors, and I've knocked on a lot of Republican doors, and they are very unhappy, just as much as the Democrats are, with everything that's happening. I think a lot of Republicans these days aren't straight ticket voters. Of course, there's some. But I think that housing, that's up 40% since 2013. You've got food costs that are just absolutely killing people. Hell, myself, I'm putting things back on the grocery store shelf myself when I go to the grocery.
Sure.
You've got healthcare costs. Those are just a few of the things that we've got going on that if we sit down together and talk, I think that we're able to come together to find a solution to fix those problems. And that's what's not happening today in Congress. You have, for a lack of better ways or analogies to say it, is you've got people performing for the camera, right? You don't have people working for the people.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to get back to.
Right. Well, the boring parts of legislation and having the government run, function properly so that people can get on with their lives. I think one of the things that may be in our favor, going into the next, into the midterms especially, is this sort of just panic fatigue that a lot of people are tired of white knuckling their government. It's partly what helped Biden get elected in 2020 was this idea of a real focus on competency, that you shouldn't, your elected representatives shouldn't be the most important person in your life. They should just be able to make sure that your life, is, I guess there's a foundation around you that you can have your best life on, and that's the safety and security of your children, your education, any control that we can have on prices and those kind of things are crucial to that. So when it comes to Indiana being quote unquote deeply red, I think there's an assumption that goes with the geography of states like Indiana, which is sparse areas tend to be red, and they look insurmountably red if you look squint at a map, because you're looking at counties, but those counties in a lot of cases don't have a ton of people in them, and
No, they don't.
therefore, right, and therefore convincing a smaller group of people is way easier than, say, trying to go after Detroit or Chicago or Los Angeles or San Francisco, as far as the number of doors you have to knock on and the people you have to reach with your ads and that kind of stuff. Is there receptivity that you're seeing to kind of like reaching across the aisle and you having to, I guess, thread the needle of Democratic expectations versus a largely Republican voter base or
Right.
assumptive out of it?
I think there is, and I find myself to be more of a centrist. I'm
Hmm.
kind of, I am a little bit more conservative of a liberal, right? Um,
Right. Okay.
so I found meeting the Republicans that I have talked to, meeting them in the middle. It's hearing them out, and oftentimes people that's just what they want. They want
Yeah.
to be able to be heard on both sides of the aisle, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think that we have to come together. We have to hear both sides. We're going to have the extremes on both the left and the right. And,
Right.
and, and I don't think there's going to be anything I can do to change those things, right?
Hmm.
But there is a large group of people in the middle who are just frankly tired of the showboating. They're tired
Yeah.
of the political bullshit, excuse my
Yeah.
language.
Not at
But they
all.
really
Totally
are.
good.
And they want somebody who's going to fight for them. Look, I'm not a politician. In
Hmm.
fact, I never wanted to be a politician. I call it the dirty word, right? um,
Right.
I want to be your neighbor because I
Hmm.
am. Look, I'm sitting in my office at the university that I work at. I work in financial aid. I've worked in higher education for more than 20 years now. Um, I don't. I hope that
Hmm.
I don't. If I'm elected, I hope that this does not become a career for me. I want to get in and help make changes for the people and get back to my career. This is not
Yeah.
something that I want to do for the rest of my life, but I want to put the time in to help the people on both sides of the aisle.
Hmm. Well, that's what representative government ultimately is. Anyways, you represent the district, not the party side of that district, and that's become
That's right.
increasingly, part a difficult part of the conversation. And what happens, I think, in people who are sort of driving the divide in asserting that difference in the party, like this is they're Democratic voters or Republican voters in a district. You're on one side of that or the other. The other side is an insurmountable pile of monsters that you can't talk to. That ultimately people get boxed into almost categorically only representing the people that elected them in the primary season, as it were, and therefore they're setting up a future where they are voted out or someone runs against them on the idea that they are disenfranchising half the voters. And so the communicating
Right.
on the issues, I think, is an increasingly valuable thing. And I've always said there are no partisan issues. There are often partisan solutions, and that's what we get hung up on, is that some people think the
Mhm.
problem will be solved one way, or there is no problem at all, or they think they have another solution. But in reality, I think that a lot of issues are gravity is real no matter what anybody does, and there's a bipartisan, the only solution is the solution that exists, and whether and it's about bringing people to understand that as
Mhm.
whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, the only way we're going to solve for gravity is wings, a propeller, or a balloon. That's all.
Right.
That's all you got as far as and and I think there's a lot of room for a lot of problems to be solved in that structure without having to venture into
Agreed.
people's religious, social, or personal beliefs into their dating profile, as it were. Because I think
Yeah.
a lot of what we're seeing from Trumpism is this incel dating profile attitude towards politics. You're appealing to people's social structure as opposed to, okay, we need a road from here to here. How do we best fund that? How do we make sure that it's safe? How do we make sure that it's highest impact, lowest cost for the taxpayer while still
Right.
expanding business in that area?
Mhm.
Is there something to the sixth district, like in the industry of the area, that could be brought back, or there's something that has been on the decline, or a hidden gift of the district that that you're focusing on, or that people have been getting promised for a long time that you're seeing, and that might
I
lead to
think
that?
that I think right now there's a large amount of food insecurity in
Right.
the entire district. There's around 11 counties, excuse me, in the district. Um, and focusing in on that, there's some drug problems in a few
Mm-hmm.
different counties. That is kind of sad, including my own hometown. When I go back to my hometown, it's not the town that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
You see drug addicts even on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the Indiana. That's not the Connorsville is where I grew up in Fayette
Mm-hmm.
County. That's not what I remember, and I want to help every county. I want not just in my district, because let's face it, if elected, I am working for the people, those who vote for me and those who wouldn't. I'm working for all of them, but also I'm still working for Indiana and for Americans. So I have to
Yeah.
think of the larger goal too of how that affects everybody else. And I don't think that we've had politicians, at least in the congressional setting, that think past the tip of their nose. They think about
Mm-hmm.
themselves. I mean, hell, we need to get a congressman or congresswoman back in place that thinks about the people that voted them in. That's their
Mm-hmm.
boss. It's not the
Right.
president. It's not the party. I've told people before, poverty doesn't know political lines.
Mm-hmm.
The people do.
Right.
And you've
Yep.
got to get back to feeding, to helping people who are going hungry. We've got here in Indiana, there was a bill that the governor let go that allowed children 700, and don't quote me on the number, but I believe it was 740,000 kids this summer went hungry because they decided not to renew it.
Right.
Those are the types of things that we're fighting here in Indiana.
I grew up in Peaksville, Kentucky. You and I were talking about how the fact that
Yeah.
the town you grew up in very similar to mine. I think mine was actually, I'm not bragging, but was smaller. And
Yeah, yeah, I think yours was. It
yeah,
probably was.
and there's a crucial aspect to like small town life that for a while it was taken for granted as being more community based, more like home and the like, and
Mhm.
then over time it's become almost more isolated than cities. It's a curious aspect of modern life that modernity
Mhm.
brought to the sticks, where people stay home, don't go to movie theaters, watch TV at home, hang out at home. Those kind of things that in a city don't necessarily dampen your interaction with your fellow human beings. If your house is a mile and a half from the next house, it has a much bigger impact, especially if you're not going to church on the regular or some sort of social gathering.
Right.
It isolates people, and
Mhm.
that isolation creates, it just sort of blossoms into whatever your particular inclination will be, whether it's paranoia against your fellow man, and end times religious fanaticism, alcoholism, drug addiction. It will drive you into yourself. The woods is the sticks are way more lonely than people know, and it's partly why you have the fellowship movement out of Methodist and Lutheran and Baptist churches in the
Yeah.
South. Why you don't just go to church, you get together on Wednesday night and have a meal with everybody in town. That happened for a long time. One of the negative aspects of sort of the of drug addiction that has spread through the rural areas is that it ratchets up the isolation even more than and it also creates kind of moral judgment and distance, and the lack of like addiction
Mhm.
care that might be there, plus the crime that goes along with it, and this kind of then you get vacillating Republicans like total disdain and the criminalizing of addiction. And then on the what I would say the far left of our side is almost the deification or lionizing of it, that it's a protected class, that allowing somebody to be addicted and homeless is somehow an act of their freedom. And the reality is that there's as many reasons to become homeless and addicted as there are human beings. And so, kind of painting them with a broad brush either way is a mistake, and it's inhuman. And so
Agreed.
being, in the, what you would say is a centrist, and I would say is that, we're in a situation where the crust thinks it's the pizza right now, that the fringes,
Good
right?
analogy. That's a real good analogy.
It's convinced
It
right
is.
now that when you're really looking to solve these problems and get back to that kind of town you knew, which involved a lot of people. I left Kentucky partly when I was 14 because I saw the drinking around me that was starting already at 14, 15 years old. And now that always kind of existed a little bit. But now it's fentanyl. Now it's, like super weed, this kind of like high THC count stuff that's just totally different, mixed with pharmaceuticals that come from God knows where, whether they're prescribed or not, or overlap. There's a lot of, biohacking in the worst way that happens. And the South, especially, and rural communities have been hit by it terribly. And the reaction has been kind of this fallback to just say no, distancing, lock them up, that worked before with different substances, different experiences. So in those districts, is there money that needs to be brought to those districts for addiction care, but also like a refinement of the drug laws and an actual enforcement that makes sure that people aren't being, you're not setting up the next generation of addicts, as it were, by making it so easy so as you can trip and fall into it, that instead of an addict having to find their way to it, it finds them.
Right. I think that there definitely needs to be a lot of dollars pumped into mental health awareness and drug rehab programs, just to be
Mm-hmm.
blunt. Indiana is surrounded by states in Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and even Kentucky where
Yep.
marijuana is now legal. And Indiana, it being one of the larger pharmaceutical industry, you've got Eli Lilly, Roche, a few different
Mm-hmm.
places. I think it's 7. Don't quote me on that number, but I could name off at least 7 uh, drug manufacturers here. So it's safe to say that they're fighting against legalizing marijuana, right? I
Yeah.
believe that it should be legalized across the board and tax the hell out of it, quite honestly,
Mm-hmm.
and put those funds towards infrastructure, towards mental health, towards education, and use those funds to help fund those different things.
Right.
And I
Well,
think that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was just saying, like, so California legalized and Portland Oregon legalized everything, like,
Yeah.
personal, so almost everything. And it became a terrible experiment that killed a lot of people in Portland, especially. Like, the
Hmm.
death rate amongst users went through the roof because the broad availability. California's only struggle with I think in some areas where cities have like opened it up, if they just kept it to sort of legalized weed and they just kind of kept it to areas in the same way that you don't want a cigar bar to stink up every place on the block,
Hmm.
that seems to work fairly well. They had a
Hmm.
substructure of the illegal pot farms grew at an exorbitant amount parallel to the rising legit market because taxes drove the price up, and the safety factors of it, regulations make it more expensive. So cheaper weed ran in parallel next to it, oftentimes at the same, close to the same areas. You know what I mean? They'd have over the hill, they'd have an illegal crop growing on the other side of the hill from where they were growing it in California. And so that's become a constant gardening aspect, no pun intended, for that part of it. Kentucky, when I grew up there, had pot was the cash crop that kept the state afloat.
Hmm.
Like, let's not kid ourselves. So, like, horse races and UK and University of Louisville, like U of L, people, that tuition isn't going to keep the whole state afloat.
The whole state afloat, exactly.
Yes. So huge sections of eastern Kentucky, especially, were weed farms. And if you flew over it, all the cornfields and the tobacco fields looked like donuts from the air because they'd have these big light colored green, and then the center would be this dark thick green. Well, that was all the weed. And that was, that was the quiet subsidy that kept these farms alive. And one of the things about going after it was, and really pushing in the late 80s, part of what decimated the economy, the secondary economy, which is where you spend that money in the stores, and that got taken away, and that wrecked huge parts of that as they went in and wiped out these crops and arrested people and the like. Legalizing it would balance that part out, and we've even had Mitch McConnell coming out for ultimately legalizing weed so we can have hemp. That's essentially, there's a huge part of that. And Indiana is a great place where a hemp crop, if you could just get past, and I don't know what the laws are there currently, but Kentucky, since you squint, you can't tell the difference. They've always been stiff arming it, right? Like, no, man, that's hemp. Like, I don't know the difference, right? 5 leaves or 4, it's not my problem, right? That was always the way they got out of it, so they just made it illegal. Right. So, and it's a resilient crop, and it doesn't leach nutrients out of the ground, so it can be a rotational crop. You can grow corn and other stuff one period, and then marijuana over top of it, and kind of burn the stalks and go back to scratch, whatever. So the key is in that legalization, where's the balance then for you in synthetic pharmaceuticals, which are really the ones doing the damage to people's lives in a permanent, in their brains, that's physically altering human beings in a way, and then legal, like creating that balance. You know what I mean? Like the legislation that's involved in that. And then I want to talk to you about your legislation about for online stuff, because that's a big. I'm named after a computer, so it means a lot. But your thoughts on that part of it, because it's a big part of rural life right now. Is how do you deal with the synthetic opioids and the like?
I think, it's a good question. And it's something I've talked with a few law enforcement officials. I'm good friends with a few sheriffs around in this district. And I wouldn't, I would be remiss to even try to levy an opinion on it yet. I want to gather more information. I will be the first politician. I probably shouldn't say the first, but I will be the politician that says when I don't know the answer to something, I'm gonna tell you, and I don't know that I have an answer to that, Hal. And I apologize, but I will find out. Hopefully, if I'm able to come on the show again, I'll be able to answer that question.
I love that idea, and I'm glad if I've kind of opened up that conversation a little bit, because I think it's one of the areas that isn't being addressed in large part, is that balance between and I think ultimately this is a big difference between, I think, Democrats and Republicans that we have to kind of work out in. From our side as Democrats, like allowing people as much managed freedom as is logically and is safe, right? Maybe 55-mile-an-hour speed limit was too slow for a lot of people, but 90 or 100 is a terrible idea. And so, right? So threading that needle and really trying to do the work of going, let's study this. Let's figure out what's the best cases, and let's look at the pilot programs that have happened over the country and read the data and go, for this is the best practice right now. You're never going to be able to stop individuals, cold turkey from whatever trajectory they're on. Where the government's job is not to live people's lives for them, but for guidelines and regulations and those kind of things, best practice. And then tightening around that thing, like writing them as finely as possible so that people have sort of the maximum freedom to live their lives without accidentally walking into a cul-de-sac they can't get out of because they didn't know something was dangerous or bad, or it was overhyped or forgotten about, and those kind of things. So that's one of those areas that I think, especially in rural America, and I think about this every time I go back to Kentucky, and I'm sure you see this around you, is like... you could argue that alcohol and weed, as bad as they are, and they do damage,
Mm.
take time to do it. That there's a, you know what I mean? Like it takes you a
Yeah,
while
you're
to
right.
wreck yourself on that stuff.
Yes, it does.
OxyContin didn't take any time at all, and you saw people
Like
in a
that.
in a matter of months, they were not the human being they were before,
Hmm.
and the idea that they could come back from it got scarier and scarier for a lot of families in a very short order. And so the idea, again, that's where that's why you want somebody running the FDA that's not RFK Jr. You want somebody who's actually caring about the value of pharmaceutical stuff and the benefits it can have without just, having kind of a YouTube understanding. Don't get me started of sort of the
Captain Brainworms. You don't like Captain
yeah,
Brainworms?
exactly right. Yes, the guy, yeah, the heroin addict who like raw
Right.
dogged his way through his entire presidential campaign, and most of his life,
Well, it sounds
telling
like he's
everybody.
being waterboarded. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Yes, no, yeah, well, because I had always thought he had the vocal paralysis thing from an infection, but it turns out it was apparently, according to Michael Wolff, he fried his vocal cords smoking crack. So that, I mean, honestly,
I've not heard that. I've not heard that.
yeah,
I didn't
that
know
he
that.
was that
I thought the
yeah
same
that
as
he
you.
yeah that he was that egged it on, and some of those things. That's the other thing too, is that like, um, I would argue that Donald Trump's drug use over the course of his life, benzodiazepines and
Ugh.
Adderall and speed and stuff that he's done, and bad diet and all that stuff, have brought the illnesses that may be natural genetic to him, dementia and those other things, sooner than they would have come
Sooner than that.
otherwise.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
the
I would agree.
stress of being president this time, I think, is impacting him in a way it didn't last time, and I think his brain is turning to tapioca. But that'll be a conversation for our next
Yeah.
time. But I like so one of the things that and I've told you about this before we got on the air, but one of the things I've been pushing for is a California bill, and I drafted a version of it, and I've been shoving it in front of people for the last 4 months, trying to get some traction on it. Is a bot labeling bill that online you should just have the right to know if you are talking to a real person or not. I don't mind arguing the dumbest, most vile ideas with another human being because I feel my ideas will stand up to theirs and I'm comfortable doing that. But I am not cool with wasting my time on a treadmill of ideas, yelling, at a vending machine, about
Right.
whether Zagnut's a real candy bar or not. And so that's what is happening online a lot of times. People are getting very like emotionally distraught and feeling like the world is falling down around them and that the world is full of awful, and they're not even talking to another person. They're talking to a wind-up toy.
Yep.
And then you mix that with the algorithm that feeds you more of that. So you have bots built on an algorithm to chase the algorithm. You have an algorithm that is dopamine based that says, if this upsets you, wait till you hear this,
Right.
because,
Exactly.
right? So it's called the Digital Integrity and Algorithmic Accountability Act, the DIAA. Am I getting that
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So tell me about it, and then I want to crack into it a little bit because this is super important.
Yeah, sure. So the DIAA, I just refer to it as DIA, because
Hmm.
I could have probably came up with a better name for this than what it
Sure.
is. It's a mile long. But the
Hmm.
goal is to make social media algorithms transparent, accountable, and user controlled. So what it
Right.
does is it pushes platforms they have to offer their folks or their users a one-click chronological feed. So why am I seeing this? And it gives them,
Yes.
it requires them to have tools to opt out. Let's go back to the day, the Facebook feed, when quite
Hmm.
literally all you saw on the old news feed of Facebook were the people you followed. There was
Yeah.
nothing pumped into your feed again. And this requires all platforms to make that an option for people.
Hmm.
It also requires audits, independent safety audits by a third party. Something that I've written up known as DISC, which is the Digital Integrity Security Council. It operates as a third party. It's not the government, and
Hmm.
they handle the systemic risks. So, for example, there will be circuit breakers in place that platforms have to put into place for crisis controls, like to slow the viral spread of unverified content in elections or in emergencies. And
Hmm.
speaking of elections, this bill will also require all social media platforms to have an election integrity team, something that
Hmm.
I'm not sure you may remember Elon Musk got rid of when he bought Twitter. And he
Yep.
got rid of like 80% of the employees of Twitter, including the
Well, they
Safety
would
and
have
Security
caught. Well,
Council.
they would have caught them messing around in 2024. Is the idea, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really it's a real time. Um,
Hmm.
it does not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. People have often said, Corey, isn't this like policing speech? This actually has nothing to do with speech.
Hmm.
It's putting laws into place, kind of like we require a speed limit. We were kind of talking about the speed
Uh
limits
huh.
earlier. There's a speed limit and there's seat belts, right? We require those. This is the speed limit and the seat belt for social media platforms. It doesn't control what people are allowed to say. It controls the platforms who publish it.
Hmm.
It's as simple as that. It's protecting free speech because point blank, how
Hmm.
we have the right to freedom of speech. Bots don't.
Right. Yes.
It's as
So
simple
that.
as that.
Yeah. So that's the. I think one of the primary things, and that's why I've really been pushing for this like bot labeling act. Like, just
Mhm.
it's okay if American Airlines has an online Twitter account or whatever, and it's run by an algorithm and an AI. I don't really have a problem with that any
Yeah,
more than like a customer service chatbot does stuff or whatever. If it's, if it breaks and says something awful, that's on them the same way if one of their employees went rogue.
sure.
It damages the company, but it doesn't have any impact on the greater populace necessarily, right?
Agreed.
I suppose unless it's hacked and goes on a racist, eugenics screed, which is not out of the question.
Right.
But again, their problem, not anybody else's. But if you at least know that your feed is full of bots, your feed is full of algorithmically, farcically created content, that I think one of the easiest ways you could go about that in the DIAA and DIA is to make it so that when there's an emergency, all the bots shut down. Like your bots disappear from your
Mhm.
feed. You are only hearing from real human beings. You can have them, but if there's a tornado in your area and your feed is gacked up with a bunch of nonsense that tells you to go out and say and capture the rain because it cures cancer
Right.
if it comes directly from the center of a tornado, you know, that stuff just should you should be able to drop that out immediately, and that goes to your sort of like the for you feed that's on some of these things.
Mhm.
That that's even a curated one now, which it doesn't just the people you follow. It's the people you follow plus some people we think you might like, right? Because they're trying
Yep.
to create those threads because those synapses once they're there are harder for you to break or whatever because you have to go through and pair your system out, and that shouldn't be on you, right? It's
Agreed.
effectively auto following anybody they think is important is messed up, especially if it's, and this goes to your like how to label it, but like as an advertisement. One of the things that we learned about advertising to kids in the 80s especially was that they would do a cartoon like Care Bears when it was really just selling toys. Like they went, we have the toy, instead of doing an ad, let's do a cartoon around these toys and we'll just
Mhm.
we'll
Masters
back
of the
in.
Universe.
That's
Masters of the
right.
Universe from when you and I were kids. That was perfect. It
Yes.
was actually a toy before it became a cartoon.
That's right. And so we got these odd things on the shelves. Instead of doing an ad campaign, let's just create the narrative and sell from that. And they learned after a while that like that's how you do it, man. You can manipulate a kid, and there's a lot of familial strife that a lot of families went through with kids screaming at their parents about a
Screaming.
toy they wanted, Cabbage Patch Kids or all that kind of stuff. And that's on a low end. That's just a kid going. That's my new favorite thing. My son, who's 14, you know, there were a couple of things like Mr. Beast putting out a candy bar and having a restaurant when he opened his place. We've had Mr. Beast
Mhm.
burger far too many times, which is more than once. And and then what's the there's like that sports drink that one of the big gamer guys like Luke Paul or whatever is selling that's up prime.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and you I could see it at his school. You could see that once this was selling through there, that it was just borderline hypnotism, that it just caught on
Hmm.
like wildfire. And it's, I mean, it's garbage, but whatever. Like, it's still a concern. Like, if it's that easy for kids, and we know that now, we know you have to throttle those things. We have to protect kids from undue influence in these things. That there's an element
Correct.
of like grown-ups too. And again, I don't mind if another human being tells me a piece of BS and I believe it. That's on me. But
Yep.
if it's 900 bots pretending to care about the stuff I care about for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden going, fluoride makes you stupid, right? That
You're
which
right.
is what they do, which is what they did.
It's a
I
thousand
mean,
percent what they do.
yeah.
Yep.
So remedying that is would be fantastic. But the line I think we have to figure out, and this is I'm curious how you define it. Propaganda, disinformation versus misinformation. I would define disinformation as actively lying to people. You're making sure they have the wrong information, almost directly contrary to reality. Misinformation is the person who heard the disinformation and spreads it organically.
Correct. Yep.
The
And there's
dummy who
also
passes it on.
malinformation.
Yes, malinformation is where you're lying to someone so that they go through the wrong door and fall off a cliff on purpose. Like
Exactly. It's on purpose.
yes, you're not just trying to lie to them, you're lying to them for a malign purpose. So
Hmm.
how do you legally, within the confines of this, the First Amendment, how do you define those things in a way that it doesn't stifle speech and but that it's not neutered either?
I think that's the needle that everybody's trying to thread right now, and I don't
Hmm.
know that I have the answer for that. My bills focus more on the platforms themselves, not what's being said. But I will agree with you. There has to
Hmm.
be something that polices that. My bills look at disinformation, misinformation, malinformation from the fake account standpoint of preventing that. One of the other bills is the Real Identity Integrity Act. You'll hear integrity a lot in the different bills that I'm using for this
Good.
because it is the integrity, it's the good of the people, right?
Right.
The Real Identity Integrity Act, or RIA,
Hmm.
the goal of that is to end the weaponization of fake accounts and propaganda networks or manipulation as a service providers. And it's really difficult for people to understand that those exist. Even more so, there's not just bots out there anymore. There are accounts known as sock puppets. Do you know what
Yes.
those are, Hal?
Oh,
Yeah,
indeed, I do.
yeah, for the viewers that are watching a sock puppet, instantly you're thinking of, you put the tube sock on your hand, but put the googly
Hmm.
eyes, right? It's the same concept, but it's a human behind an account that calls themselves Tim Smith, but it's
Yeah.
actually Renee so and so who's operating 100 different accounts. All of them appear to be different people, and it's partially automated. So it's
Right.
partially a bot when they're not operating it. They'll log into it and begin to mimic the account. And those have become a massive problem on platforms because they're circumventing the systems that platforms have put into place that detect these automated bots, right?
Right.
So RIA, I came up with RIA, or the Real Identity Integrity Act, that uses a third party that works with every platform, and it essentially tokenizes the
Hmm.
user. So you log in, it's like Plaid. When you try to link your bank account to something, it would work in that essence when creating an account on Twitter or X, whatever the hell it's called today,
Right.
Facebook.
I call it shitter
I call
because
it
I pronounce
yeah,
it like Xi
it's
Jinping. So with an X. So yeah, shitter. That works.
I could go into a long rant. I did some work behind the scenes, and I was a whistleblower with I found a propaganda network and
Hmm.
exposed that. Then I was maliciously attacked and sent death threats because of it a couple years ago. So that's for a different
Sure.
conversation. But I could tell you I could even show you how they all work together.
Yeah.
But the Real Identity Integrity Act takes existing, I use the example of ID Me. If you go to id.me,
Uh-huh.
it's a system like you have to, veterans use it for all of their VA logins. You use it for the IRS. If you want to go in and look at your tax transcript, they use
Yep.
this. And you just create an account, and then it links you, third party, to the IRS's website. So they verify your identity through that. The Real Identity Integrity Act is essentially putting that into place.
Yeah.
It even takes to the extent of, what about children? Well, for ages 13 through 17, I said earlier, I work in financial aid. So when you fill out a FAFSA, the child who's underage, they've got to send to their parent a link so they can link their financial aid information,
Right.
or link their tax information. It's kind of the same concept, where a child will be able to get an account, but they have to have permission from the parent first, and it ties that child to them, and then they graduate to an adult account when they turn 18, but that data is still there. It protects people's identities, so the platforms aren't getting your name, they aren't getting my name, they're getting the usernames, whatever you're going by. So you don't have to worry about your identity being stolen or your identity being leaked
Like
if
doxed,
Twitter is
right.
hacked or doxed.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're protected. It's tokenized. So by doing that, also, you have the opportunity to verify. Remember back in the day when those blue check marks
Yeah.
actually meant something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, imagine that. They would
Before
actually
they were
mean
for
something
sale.
today.
Yeah.
Exactly. For sale, and they basically mean that you're paying shitter
Yes.
a fee so that you're higher on the algorithm. It doesn't mean any damn thing about you having your identity verified anymore.
Right. Yeah.
This would do that. So it essentially eliminates the bad bots. A business can go in and
Yes.
register for a group of bots that they may want to help promote their business, but they will be
Yeah.
labeled, just like you said, Hal. They'll be labeled as such. It'll show what business they're associated with. We're not being misled, because quite honestly, when you hide those things, that's fraud, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It is fraud. You're getting all of these likes by fake accounts that pushes somebody. You're seeing it now with Libs of TikTok was somebody who attacked me because of something that I published.
Sure.
I was against the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I think it's wrong.
Yeah.
They took a section. They literally just screenshot my first 3 paragraphs and left out the part where I said, I don't agree with this, that this is wrong.
Yeah.
And they ran with it. And then there's a massive amount of bot network that's published, or that's pumping that up. So it's higher in the algorithms. That's dangerous to people. That
Right.
should
It's
not
also a
be
lie.
happening.
It is fraud.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah. So
It's fraud through and through.
That's right. And in the situation where, like, if a newspaper did it, you would have recourse. Trump loves to sue newspapers for, quoting him directly. But when it's, the average person, if you're malign, you're not a public figure, or you're not, or you are, or you're running for office or what have you, and they take something out of context intentionally, and you can prove that they did that just to make you look bad, and they leave out an important part of the quote, you have recourse against publishing companies. Now, the Section 230, which is the part that everybody's been pushing back on, that social media doesn't have to do that because it's not technically a publisher. The problem with that is that the algorithm, as it stands, like we're talking about, makes them into a publisher. If Elon Musk comes in and favors some accounts over another, and spreads some accounts over another, retools the algorithm, that is no different than a newspaper's narrative. That is no different than a media organization choosing what stories to run with and what stories not to run with. And so they are indeed at that point a publisher. And, unless, and this may be the kind of legal way to guarantee what you're talking about, is that you as a user have the right to anyone you follow, and the awareness that the accounts you're following, because you can't knock on every door, because it's just, you have the right to know that those are real human beings or not. You can follow a bot if it tells you what you like to hear. That's going to be increasingly a reality. It already is with the Claude boys, but but you are going to, right? You're going to need the ability to be able to vet the people that you're talking to so that they're not publishing to you. Because right now, Elon Musk is publishing Twitter as a media arm. It is not strictly just the Wild West. Certain things get bumped to the top. He actively kicks some people off. The minute you start doing that, you go, okay, we have our terms of service, but then we have our gray area of terms of service versus embarrassing the company. I would argue for him, since the terms of service is basically thrown out the window, the minute he brought Nick Fuentes back on and then kicked him back off, or Alex Jones or whoever it is, when he gets mad at one of these guys, that's turning you into a publisher. You now have different rules.
I would agree.
You're not just an aggregate at this point. An aggregate versus algorithm is a very important argument that we just have not had, because the assumption is it's social media. We're just socializing here. But if it's a members-only club and you didn't know that, and the only people you're meeting there are people who've been vetted through the other door, or they're all robots and you're in Westworld, and at any minute they could turn on you, you have a right to know that. You can still stay. That's up to you. But at least you should be able to know that, yes?
I 1,000% agree. And I take it a step further. How you've got Wall Street, you've got stocks that move, and we saw it with the GameStop issue and with AMC and
the meme
and
stocks,
Tesla,
right?
The meme stocks. We saw tickers move because of social media. You can make any stock you want run if you have enough bots online. Why? Because then the media are seeing that it's trending on social media. So now you've got Fox News or Fox Business or NBC or CBS. They're now talking about it. It's a snowball effect.
Right. Well, and you can it's a manufactured snowball effect. You can effectively create a pump and dump if you own a big enough platform, whether you're Mark Zuckerberg or whether you're Elon Musk. And again, you have the right to do that as long as you're upfront about it. I think this thing is great, and you can take my word for it or not. There's knock yourself out, but there is a secondary aspect of saying this and then knowing that you have a swamp of bots that the minute Elon Musk says he likes something, they are literally programmed to go, yeah, me too,
just
brother.
Swarm it.
Yeah, and it's built that way. And so even the news right now, technically, without way more money than most news organizations have, could not hunt down whether or not the vast majority of supporters of a bill, an idea, a candidate, a stock online are real or not. There's no way to chase it down. And you remember when I knew this was bad. And I've been verified in myself. I've used my name on everything. I'm open about who I am and where I even have a Truth Social account in my real name, and it's the bane of Trump's existence if he ever sees it. Because the minute they allow live streaming on that platform for free, like they do on Rumble and other stuff, I'm gonna throw my show on there in a heartbeat, hoping somebody stumbles across it and makes their
let me know when
their
that
hair
happens.
catch fire. Right? Yeah. So, but. I've always been, sort of lived my life in public. And so I'm comfortable being forward with what I believe. And I think people should be, unless there's something saying something genuinely awful, free to do that. And that's what social media is and should be. But the minute, I don't know if you remember this, when CNN was quoting Twitter when it first came out, they would have across the bottom, they'd have a CNN Twitter account. And CNN was jockeying with Ashton Kutcher to be the first to reach 1 million. Remember that shit?
I do remember that. I do.
And they were, and everybody was like, everybody missed the MySpace bus, and they were worried about, missing Facebook, so they were building shit on that. But then Twitter came out, and so it became a matter of chasing the next big dog on the block.
Yep.
And when it came to Twitter, they were reading random Twitter accounts on the air. Rando Dick, 557 says blah, blah, blah. And I was like, do you guys have any idea that you are ringing the dinner bell for spoilers and foreign agents and special interest groups that just want to drive the conversation all they got to do is know how to, say something incendiary within a certain window during the day, and it will pop up in CNN's feed. And it did. It was like an ongoing thing. They have dialed that back. It took them a while, but they seemingly learned their lesson, I guess, for a while. But that's because it just went everywhere else. Now we've got, like, RFK Jr. is effectively, running our healthcare system because of that kind of nonsense. Because bots on Twitter pushed him to the front of the line.
Pushed him and made him look smart. I mean, hell, you, as an actor yourself, Hal, I'm sure you remember Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League movie.
Yes, right.
You remember what happened with it after? I mean, it tanked. It did
Yeah.
horrible. But then there was a group of individuals, we'll say it's 8 people. They ran like hundreds of thousands fake accounts on Twitter and got a remake of it
Yes.
greenlit. And that actually happened because of like 8 people running hundreds of thousands of fake accounts.
Yeah. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment, and by the way, loss for the organization, like loss for because it didn't help.
Pissed were they?
Well, and rightly so. I mean, but I look, this hour has blazed by, and I really appreciate you being on here with me, Corey. Which I feel like now I can call you Corey after this.
Please do. This is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're running for the 6th Congressional District in Indiana, covering what's the major towns in that area? Like the bigger.
You've got Richmond. You've got Hancock County, Greenfield, Rushville, Shelbyville. It's 11 total counties. A little sliver of Indianapolis, Columbus. So. A shout out to all 11 counties. They've all seen me in different ways. I'll be around a lot.
Well, I wish you luck. Anything we can do, and as you continue on, I'd love to have you back on to discuss. If there's an issue specific to your district, I know that it will be specific to the rural districts across the country, and again, reaching across the aisle to the real humans. Disregarding the R on their shirt or the lack of a D, I suppose, on their shirt, and addressing the real needs, because I would rather argue with a child that was raised healthy with enough food in their belly, that's gone through an education system that takes care of them, than somebody whose life is shortened prematurely by people who think they're expendable. And there's a lot of that going on in the rural governance. And it's just sad. Like, they're writing off their own constituency and only caring about the top slice. And the Republicans are look at Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul and versus what's really going on in Eastern Kentucky. I see that all the time. They couldn't care less. And so I think that caring part of it is something that does, I think, bring people to the table. And so hopefully, we can make more of that happen, across a bunch of districts. So I applaud you for doing the actual work, which is turn a red district blue. That is our crucial and most important goal. Once we hit 60% of the House and 60 members in the Senate, then we can start tap dancing and pairing out people that might be imperfect or something. Right. But until that time comes, we need people who can speak to people where they are. And I appreciate you giving that a good go. So thanks for being on. Absolutely. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. I insist. All right. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Bye, guys.
Cheers. There it goes. All right. Excellent. And now, ladies and gentlemen, waiting in the wings, if I can. Hold on. I have to switch this over to so that she doesn't have the same name as my last guest. That would be awkward. Is the lovely and talented Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. I have a whole window with her in there, I think, somewhere. Where is it? 3, 2, 1. I had to switch software this morning because I had an issue, as it were, with logging into. I feel like the deep state was after me again.
When aren't they?
Yeah, really, and rightly so. I should be their target. These
I am already. So
sure,
just join forces there wherever you are.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. Hi there.
Howdy. Hi.
Hiya.
I see you. I don't see me. Am I on?
You are
People still
on.
see me?
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry. You
cool,
should.
cool.
That's
right. I'm a war vet.
Hi,
Antifa
reporting in from
war-torn
Portland,
the siege of Portland.
happening
right now.
All around us.
Hashtag Rip Portland.
Woo. Am I echoing? I'm apparently echoing now.
Oh,
I don't
How about
hear
that?
an echo. I'm fine.
There we go. Try that.
Check two toast sibilance. Check two sibilance. Check toast. Tara has an echo. Everybody says.
All right. Okay. I'll work on
Tara,
that.
Tara,
I can handle it.
bot.
I can make it happen. It's okay. Let's put this in here.
Hal is
Nope,
tinny.
done.
Oh no.
Good. Done.
Hal is tinny and Tara is echoing. Can't have that.
That's just rude.
It is. It's inappropriate.
Yeah. So
doesn't lend itself.
I think that should remedy it.
Check two.
Yeah,
She's
by and large.
Andrea. Would you like me to hang up and call back? Perhaps that
No, you're
might
good.
remedy it. I'm
No,
good.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, are we echoing?
I
It's
fixed
fixed.
it. It takes
Is it happening?
it takes a
Are we
minute.
on? It's fixed.
Yeah.
It's fixed.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
exactly.
Because
Don't go with the chat room when I just fix it, because there's always a delay in that. So you'll be looking at it like still there. Like that happens for another minute and a half after. Yeah.
Okay.
So hi.
All right. Well, hi. How are you? So
I'm
a
great.
lot has happened in the last week betwixt the last time we spoke and this moment. Has it?
Yes.
Not? Do you want to go chronologically in reverse, or I mean, do you want to hear the big good things that happened to me last week before we delve into what's happening in my city, or do you want to delve into what's happening in my city first?
Know me. I'm always here for the good news. Sure.
Okay, good. So for those who still do the Twitter, last week you'll all remember, amidst of all of the stupidities, there was the grand stupidity of Donald Trump not being able to say acetaminophen, and then Tylenol got blamed for autism, which is really fucking stupid, because that's not a thing.
Sure.
So memes began with Tylenol and the Epstein files, because it's yet another, distraction from the Epstein files. And there was one where it's like, it just said, it was a Tylenol logo. Underneath it says, "Nice try, release the Epstein files."
Yes.
Saw it on Facebook, like your
Pretty
aunt.
hilarious, yeah.
I created a forward for the world by just making a tweet about it. And all I wrote was, Hal, it was 8 words and an emoji. All I wrote was, wow. I wrote, the official response from Tylenol is just brutal, with the smirk emoji.
Yeah.
Now those who have a sense of humor would recognize this couldn't possibly be a real thing. Couldn't possibly. Because it's funny and everyone's making fun of him. I didn't even hashtag it. I didn't even Epstein it. Nothing. It has gotten more engagement than any tweet I have ever written in my entire Twitter life, which began in 2009. It got over 10 million engagements. 10 million. Because MAGA was like, the study says a pregnant woman shouldn't take the Tylenol. And they all went nuts. They thought it was real because I dared to use the word official. The word official triggered. And so therefore, MAGA boosted me into what Daily Cause called worldwide interest. And it was so triggering for the babies that I made Snopes. Snopes, Hal. I was on Snopes. They had to write a whole article. They got Snoped. I knew what I was doing. Those dumb fucks boosted me to the best engagement I have ever had on Twitter, which is ridiculous because it wasn't for something meaningful or important that moves the political needle in any direction. It did, however, get retweeted by the likes of John Cleese, which made me very happy because come on. That's John Cleese. And politics aside, and if he's, quote, anti-woke, whatever people got mad at John Cleese for, I don't even remember. John Cleese of Monty Python thought I
John
was funny.
Cleese. John Cleese is what is genuinely a free speech advocate. He's not a cartoonish one, which means everybody but Kimmel. He means for real. And so, you know, a lot of, you know, the kind of, the slacktivists on our side will jump on somebody like that thinking that, you know, that somehow, well, some stuff has to be put down. And you're like, nope, it really doesn't, especially if you're trying to be funny. You can fail at being funny.
Right.
We don't jail people for being bad artists.
If only. No,
Well,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We love the First Amendment. So, yes, John Cleese, the chat is impressed. Our
yeah, it is. It's
publishers,
great.
not yet. See, here's the interesting thing about social media. I put it on every single one of my social media accounts, obviously. It did really well on Instagram. I got over 10,000 views on Insta. But Twitter is where it really went kerflooey the biggest.
Sure.
And Twitter is also the only social media app that I use that is pushing the lie that Portland is war-torn and on fire. Every other place that I inhabit knows the truth, which is we're all
it doesn't
good
exist.
here.
It was blown. No, it was blown up a
no
long time ago.
federal
You live in a
existence.
crater. Stop trying. Look, for
Yep.
people that don't know, Tara lives in a crater, and that's a Zoom background. Even her cats are CGI. I don't buy
Correct.
it.
I'm not real. I'm
Yeah,
Russian intelligence. I'm an
that's right.
intelligence bot to collect. I'm collecting all of your IP addresses right now through this microchip in my neck. Okay, so anyway, well, I mean, it got me. I mean, what it did was it sort of broke me out of the suppressed algorithm, obviously, and bigger liberal accounts finally saw me and have started sharing some of my other
Awesome.
tweets, which are good, like Wajahat Ali retweeted me and followed me, and I'm going to be on a Substack live of his very soon, and that's going to be
Great.
amazing. It's about getting our independent media voices out in the world as much as possible, and telling the truth that the mainstream media isn't telling. And so that was a good thing. And then the other thing that happened last week, I mean, between all of that going on, I had Malcolm Nance and Ron Wyden, my senator, back on the Tara Show podcast. And it was, I just fortuitous timing. I had both of them booked before, the Charlie Kirk thing happened. And also I had my senator booked before the threat of the Portland invasion. So the timing of that was really great. And then on Friday, my senator, Ron Wyden, had a town hall here, and I went to that, and that was a really interesting experience because people were yelling at him, and there wasn't I didn't get to ask him a question because they did it like raffle style, and my number wasn't called, but I did get a moment with him afterwards backstage. But people were yelling at him, and people got removed, and people were mad about, it was really Gaza heavy on the questions and everything like that. And I was frustrated by that because there are issues happening right here in Portland that deserve a lot of attention as well. But anyway, when I spoke
I would
with
argue
Ron,
that those people's entire goal is to make sure those don't get addressed. It isn't that they give a shit about Gaza at all. I don't buy it.
Yeah,
like after a while, again, this goes to, and I'm going to hammer this till it gets through some of the thicker heads. But there are a bunch of people that are allegedly, pro-Palestinian, pro-Gaza, anti-Israel right now, and don't give a rat's ass about the outcome. That there's a good third of like right wing Candace Owens types who pretend to be pro-Palestinian. You know why? Because they want all Arabs in the United States to go back to the Middle East. That's why they want that. The creation of Israel in some ways for some of the countries in Europe was one of the greatest acts of anti-Semitism that ever happened, because it was this: you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And so they like, well, I don't have a home. Well, we'll create you one so you can get the fuck out. And we know you can't be killed, but we don't want you here. And there's a huge part of that in the allegedly pro-Palestinian movement that has a lot to do with like clearing out Michigan, clearing out parts of San Francisco and other areas. And then there's the people who, either are baited into it or genuinely care but are deluded into like they voted for Trump or not at all, and allowed Trump to to do with his Trump Plaza Gaza and referring to the Palestinians as a cancer. Like, well, it's sort of a coin flip. I can't believe anybody's that stupid. So I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're smarter than that, and they're just awful.
Yeah,
Anyways, continue.
I did take
Yeah.
After and we'll get back to that in 1 second. I spoke with Ron after the thing was over, and
Ron, she calls him. She calls Senator Wyden Ron. Anyways, go ahead.
He loves me. He wants to get a nosh. When he's back in Washington now, but when he returns to Portland. And his staff is amazing. They've been incredible, specifically after I got those threatening texts, and they've been fantastic to me. They're lovely. And but we spoke, and I said, and it got really, really heated. Like, there were a few protesters that had to be removed because they weren't abiding by the rules of the town hall, but also they were they were using increasingly violent rhetoric. And there was one man who got really mad and was yelling. And at one point he said, Israel has no right to exist. And that is when you get removed, because what you're saying is the genocide you're committing is terrible, but we wanted to commit genocide against the Israeli people and take over your land. And that's not okay. And so I was more concerned about government shutdown. How does that affect us? Is Trump going to invade Portland? What's going to happen if he does? And also, what about the Epstein files if the government shuts down? And he was very calm. He's a very calming presence. He was calm throughout the town hall. He was calm when we spoke. He's very tall. And he leaned down. He goes, Tara, we're going to win. We're going to win. And okay, but we're going to talk more. And one of the things that we talked about, because I also let him know that I'd spoken with someone in Ro Khanna's office, depending on what happens with the shutdown, trying to put together a hearing in Congress regarding the online harassment and how it spills over into real life, and how MAGA is, because the most of the world, as we've said, or most of America is not on Twitter. They don't know how MAGA does this, but I did let his what's his guy? I have a million cards here. His chief communications advisor know about how no one but people on Twitter are pushing these anti-Portland messages and whatever else. So that is something that we're going to continue that conversation and see where that takes us. And remember, we are still out in the streets on October 18th for No Kings. Every state, every city, multiple cities in every state will be holding No Kings. We want to have the biggest one-day protest in American history. I'm emceeing our Portland rally, and we're trying to put together a cavalcade of local Portland talent to join us. But the point is that right now what we're facing in America is a crisis of authoritarianism and fascism, and words that MAGA doesn't understand, because fascism is bad. You don't want fascism in America. What you want is the opposite of fascism, which is anti-fascism. And so to designate, quote unquote, Antifa as a terrorist organization is wrong, because that's basically all of America. Okay,
I'm gonna push back on one of those things, and I hear this in the chat room a lot, and I think people disregard the reality on the ground because they're fighting for the value of the name. That's like saying, what's wrong with National Socialists? From the idea that Hitler's party were just National Socialists. Right? Who doesn't like National Socialism? Isn't that the whole point? You want to take care of your own people, right? That's right. Antifa is not like a threaded organization, but there are people who have co-opted that name and walk around with flags that borrow the concept of being anti-fascist, who themselves believe in their own form of fascism. So it's to me it's like what's wrong with the teachings of Jesus Christ? Look, David Koresh is just here to spread the teachings of Jesus Christ, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's an oversimplification, and everybody dumps into this whole thing, and that's what like the Antifa crowd that don't vote at all, that don't believe in democracy at all, want the system itself to burn down. Fuck all the poor people that will be harmed in the process. Fuck all the sick people who will never get health care. Fuck all them, because they are just collateral damage. They have to pay the price so that the system can be torn down.
Right.
That's right. The people who walk around with a sign that they made themselves that say I am Antifa I don't have a problem with those people because I think that's where they're really stating that they're against fascism. That's fine.
Yes.
But the people who are waving the flags are a different crowd entirely. The black blockers, the people who are wearing masks and throwing Molotov cocktails and shit like that, don't give a fuck about democracy.
Shit.
They don't give a fuck
shit
about.
For the sake.
Right, they're just shit stirs for the sake of it. They are Susan Sarandon,
Jill Stein,
acolytes.
They're all
Jill Stein acolytes. Right,
Andy,
they don't give a fuck, and they're never going to. So, they feed into. They're easily baited because they're just they're anarchists. Anybody waving an Antifa flag is actually an anarchist. It's not about what they're against; it's about what they're for. Period. Right. And that's the problem that we have when we end up defending people that aren't even on our side in these things. And again, if the greatest lie the devil ever told was teaching the world he doesn't exist, the same thing is true of sort of Antifa and other groups luring people into thinking that, well, you're fighting fascism with us, when in reality they are not. What they're fighting is democracy. And they know it, but they can co-opt your genuine. They what I would call like weaponize your empathy and steal it, and then the right just runs with it, saying that see they all support this Antifa crowd with the black bloc throwing fucking cans of soup and Molotov cocktails and assault, which we don't, and then that gets all the news. That gets all the news. And the protesters in Portland who are walking around pushing baby carriages and holding up signs that, that say immigrants are welcome here don't get any fucking coverage at all. They're completely disregarded because that's not news. If it bleeds, it leads, and fire will always lead the nightly news. So that crowd gets to own the conversation, and that's what Trump wants. Trump wants to send a bunch of these people down, lure out these Antifa dickheads who, again, are not like anti-fascist. They are anti-democratic anarchists. It's horseshit. And those guys show up, start throwing Molotov cocktails, give him an excuse to open fire. That's what they're shooting for. They're literally gaming that. Like, they want that to happen. These are either useful idiots or agents provocateur. The ones that were yanked off the street in Portland, during 2020, they were like, they're yanking people off the streets. I'm like, no, they're not. A bunch of those people got in the van. They were with them, you dumbass. Yeah. So allowing Trump to lead everybody by their nose, this is crucial. Because, again, we breeze past this shit, and it drives me crazy. It's not, just because you use the label doesn't mean you're the thing. I'm not going to believe Caroline Levitt or Mike Pillow or fucking Christians because they wear a cross and the guy who died on the cross said, love your neighbor. I'm not going to assume those traits. And if somebody's wagging a flag and calling themselves Antifa, I'm not going to automatically assume that they're against fascism when their behavior is fascistic. Period.
Got it. Okay. There are things I want to say.
Other than that, I have no opinion.
First, and neither do I, and I'm so sorry that we don't provide any content for the chat. I would like to make a statement about the Twitter and why I stay. First of all, as an American Jew, I don't let Nazis run me out of anywhere. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that's where all the Republicans post. It's my job to know what they're saying. My job as a member of the independent media, when I go on Political Voices Network, when I speak to you, when we do the Tara Show, when I go on Dino Badela's show every other week to do Bullbusters, I have to know what they're saying. I have to know what they're tweeting. I have to know what the collective bullshit is now so that I can push back on the truth until we finally get our Democratic press secretary to go out there every day and get a truthful briefing going. I understand what you're saying about how I shouldn't support it and whatever else. There are reasons to stay, and that is the same thing as like holding a bunker, staying in a trench, and making sure that they don't encroach on your territory physically. This is territory that we had, that they took over, that we shouldn't relinquish. If you don't want to be there until it gets better, I don't blame you. It's shitty. But I also know how to protect myself there. It's very easy to protect yourself there. And what I've started doing, instead of being in the For You, because none of that's for me anymore. I don't follow the White House. I don't follow Caroline. I don't follow fucking Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio. I stay in my following tab. And my people and I boost each other, and that's how we are getting our truth out. And 2 days before we're in the streets for No Kings, we've got Malcolm Kenyatta, the vice chair of the DNC, on the Tower Show. And we're going to have a very serious and very blunt conversation about democratic messaging and unifying properly and getting everybody to understand exactly what we're up against without sugarcoating it and letting that fucking bully push us around anymore. I'm done. There's 370 million of us. There's one of him. He's got a bunch of enablers, but we still outnumber them. I don't advocate for political violence ever. I want him removed in the legal way. Our voices matter. We have to push back. So yesterday, we were in the streets of Portland peacefully protesting. It's on my Instagram. It's on and on Twitter. And I haven't done a whole lot of Blue Sky, because over on Blue Sky, as good as it is, echo chamber. I'm not changing anybody's minds there. I'm not telling anybody the truth that they don't already know. They know Portland's not on fire. They know we don't need to be invaded, right? They know already. I don't have to convince anybody there. I don't have to show anybody the reality of where I live. And so yesterday we put together I'm connected to the local 50501 here. We put together a protest march in under 24 hours, and over 3,000 people showed up yesterday, peacefully. We had the ACLU, we had local unions, we had all the local Democratic people with us. My mayor, Keith Wilson, was there. Our governor, Tina Kotek, was there. Not only did they speak, but they marched with us. They marched with us. I co-led the march. I had a little megaphone. Not that you think this voice needs one, but you do. And so we're marching in the streets. We only marched for about a mile because the bigger march is coming on the 18th. But mostly what we chanted was, show Trump what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show Trump what Portland looks like. This is what Portland looks like. It's beautiful. We had, I want you to know, the gathering of all ages. The children in the strollers with the mom holding the immigrants are welcome here stroller. And we were covered. The local news was there. Independent news was there to cover it. I was obviously there. I live streamed a lot of the speeches. I walked with my governor. I walked with my mayor. I was very proud to be there. And no counter protesters stopped us. There was no violence whatsoever in our entire afternoon. What you see, what they share, is what they want the entire world to think all of Portland is.
Yep.
The ICE facility is an isolated place. It's not isolated, but it's down on the South Waterfront next to the old spaghetti factory, which is not great for them. Excuse me. And it's also right next to the Tesla factory. And so that draws people. Now, when my Senator Ron Wyden went down there on Saturday and filmed, there was nobody there because it was the middle of the afternoon. Literally no one. My friend, a friend of mine, went and made her own video, and there were 15 people. She's like, it looks like they're waiting for the bus. But then at night, that's when the agitators come.
Yep.
And that's when it looks really cool. If you have something on fire, you bring a guillotine or whatever the anarchists, the black bloc people do. That's not representative of who Portland is. And that's what you want to believe. You can stay in that. I continue to push the truth because it matters to me more than anything. And it doesn't matter to me if what people think. What matters is what people do. So on a day where yesterday we had so many acts of gun violence happen in our country yesterday. It was so abhorrent what we saw, perpetrated not by Democrats, by Democrats. Democrats want peaceful solutions. We talk about this all the time. And what we're trying to do here in Portland, someone asked, Tara, how far is the ice place from the Crystal Ballroom? They are nowhere near each other. Come on down, please. Go out. If you live in Portland or you are planning on visiting Portland, none of this should stop you because, first of all, we don't have troops on the ground just yet. And the state attorney general, Dan Rayburn, is suing to block the troops and all of that. We don't need the deployment of troops here. No American city does. No state in the United States should be a police state. No city should be invaded by the U.S. government. There's no reason the U.S. government shouldn't bully us. Trump is doing this to distract from the Epstein files. And I saw right before I joined you, I saw on Instagram, apparently there's a TikTok that's going crazy viral. There is somebody threatening to expose Mike Johnson's Grindr profile if he doesn't swear in the new rep so that they can vote on the Epstein files. That's my kind of resistance, baby. I hope it happens. I hope it happens.
Well, it's got to be a rough day to be Benny Johnson.
Oh, I heard about that too. Apparently he likes Nazi porn. Gay Nazi porn is his thing. And so that's why he sees gay Nazi porn in his feeds, because they give you what you search for.
Yeah, but I guess there was also that he had hooked up with someone of color. Was the also the other part of it?
I haven't seen that one because I've been busy fighting democracy here. But,
So
I'll love interesting, weird. All the things they claim.
Isn't it always isn't not always the way?
They love.
Yeah.
They secretly love
so
it.
yeah, like the like it's like the shootings over the weekend are of a sort of no surprise. Like it's this weird, like the shooter's mom was a big Trumpy, went to multiple at the church, went to multiple things, posted something right before right before the shooting, and God knows if it's related or not at this point.
Oh God, what?
Yeah, it's long, but the it's all about her, like, people lack accountability, and you say you could have talked to me. No, I couldn't. You don't listen. You deflect. You twist everything into an attack and then play the victim. Conversations with you aren't healing. They're exhausting, draining, and emotionally suffocating. Every time I try to speak, it feels like walking through a maze of blame where my words are used against me. My intentions questions, my emotions invalidated. I end up questioning myself, doubting my own perceptions because nothing I say lands without being turned into some justification for your behavior. It was shared by, or I guess some post on Facebook before this happened or whatever. He's
before
also
she went to church?
Trump. He's a big Trumper. No, I don't think he was. Yeah. The point is, and again, it's in all of these things, and I will say this, like all of these shooters, the Charlie Kirk shooter, this guy, the dude who opened fire on that restaurant, from a boat in the fucking harbor in whatever, South Carolina,
North Carolina.
Yeah. I got to tell you, like, people will ping this all over about the politics of each individual. It's always and every time about the ego of these assholes finding a gun, that they think they have the right, that their right to grievance outweighs somebody else's right to be alive. And I don't want to hear shit from like anybody on the right about being pro-life when you're going to shrug off the ease at which people can get guns, because an AR-15 is the AR stands for abortion rifle. It ends a natural life before its time on the planet is through. The best day of a gun's life is the worst day of yours. The only time it has value is if you're saving your life with it. Every other use of it is either a jerk off or some sort of fantasy that people live in. Or you can get good with it so you don't harm anybody else if, God forbid, you ever have to use it. That's it. But
I don't want one. I never have wanted
this
one.
cartoonish attachment to it, and like making them toys or playthings, is really part of the gun culture's part of it. And then maybe that's one of our language we need to shift to, is that if a gun is going to be about self-defense, and if a gun is going to be about something serious like protecting your homestead and your family, then it should be treated with that kind of seriousness, and not everybody can just walk around downtown with one draped in front of their chest like they're waiting for Walking Dead to break out. It should matter more than that in a civilized society. And that's a big problem with these guys. So
it's a huge problem, but it's a bigger problem in Congress because too many Republicans are owned by Russian-funneled NRA blood money, and they don't want to give it up because blood money is still green once it's laundered. So It's, money's all green under that blood, and they don't care.
Well,
It
it's
all
digital
comes down
now.
to
It's
fucking money.
it glows blue, I guess, because it's all crypto.
What the
Because
fuck
that's how
ever.
they're feeding all this in. Yeah.
It all comes down to fucking money. That's why Disney caved. That's why Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air. Both Sinclair and Nexstar have caved, and they're now going to broadcast Jimmy Kimmel again. It all comes down to fucking money, and I don't know how much money a human being truly needs, because at the end of your life, what are you doing? You're not gonna. You want to be buried with gold doubloons like Scrooge McDuck?
Well, you can
or
leave
something?
your money to your family. You can make sure that your
Of course you
grandkids go to
can.
school.
That's not what they want it for, though. They don't want to preserve their own future generations. They want to be like, I got mine. Fuck you. Get your own. That's what it seems to be. And so that's not very democratic. That's
Okay.
not,
I
that's not
well,
what
I'm
I
saying that,
want.
like, in the case of like
So,
I would argue that him being back on Sinclair and these other things arguably is a good sign of the fact that that MAGA, as fluid as their line with Donald Trump has been over the last, since he came on the scene, there are some hard lines that even he can't get past, that don't necessarily have to do with money, that don't have to do with it. One of them is Epstein, and the other one is we consider ourselves free speech absolutists. And you saw that with the Rogan pushback, and you saw that with, like, other people going, even if it's just the self-interest of, don't you think that's going to be used against you, which was Rogan's fall on it, instead of that's just wrong. But he knows his audience, and he knows that they won't give a shit if something's just wrong. They give a shit if it can be used against them, if it can be, if it's a double-edged sword, or it can be turned on them, then they'll maybe pay attention. But it wasn't about Sinclair making more money off this so much as their own audience turned on them. Their own audience, were at least trying to pretend to stand up for the beliefs that they have. And we can take that as a win. That's us winning. It's just like the child tax credit that was in the big BS bill. The reason it was in there is because Democrats introduced it. Democrats created it and furthered it, and it worked so well they couldn't get rid of it. Even Republicans had to be okay with it being in there. Should it be bigger? Absolutely. But the fact that they couldn't get rid of it, just like the ACA, proves that we're stacking wins while Trump is, blathering on about him winning every direction when all of his stuff's being rolled back into his lap, even if it seems like he's winning for a short time. It isn't. A lot of this shit's getting rolled up.
Of course it is. And it's frustrating to watch all of this happen, because none of this needs to be happening. Like, we should not be living under chaos. And I'll just keep repeating this. The President of the United States isn't supposed to be bullying American citizens. And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. And his fellow bullies are helping him. And that's not okay. That's not the American way. And I will tell you, what you're talking about is happening. There are fractures within MAGA, because there's this MAGA people who still believe, as Charlie Kirk did, in the full release of the Epstein files. But in my adventures on Twitter yesterday, post getting home from the first quote unquote siege of Portland battle on the waterfront, which we'll get back to in a second, you find that people troll you, and then you see, I always go to the profile and it's fought with bubbles and kombucha. I wrote a dispatch like a Ken Burns dispatch that I can dramatically perform at the end if you want. But because we're doing those like we did with the Battle of Montgomery, it's very funny.
Sure.
But there is, within all of the trolling, there is a major MAGA account actually telling the truth about how wrong this is. She's the Patriotic Blonde. And she writes this whole thing about what Trump is doing in Portland is unconstitutional, invading cities unconstitutional. It goes, he can't just sign an executive order. He needs the power of Congress to pass this for him to do this. And here's the statute and here's the law. And she's like, boom, 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 boom. And there are MAGA people responding to her saying, you're a traitor to Trump, fuck you. And she's like, no, he can't do this. You have to see that he can't do this. And it's amazing. Like, I was like, oh my God, I have never seen this happen before.
Yep.
I mean,
that's what I said. It's happening on a bunch of these fronts. And some of them slow on the uptake in the right-wing media, the Benny Johnsons of the world and the like. Of course they are. But you can see them dragging towards it. You can argue that there was a similar thing with Charlie Kirk about the Epstein files, where he's like, I'm done talking about it, because he got marching orders from the White House on that Monday Tuesday he was back to talking about him, not because they had called him, the White House had called back and said never mind, go ahead. It's because he had so many people in his comment section, so many people who actively give to TPUSA, who were saying, what are you doing? You have to talk about this, because I give money to you, and if you don't talk about it, people come knocking on my door and say, why are you protecting this? Why are you paying for him to hide the Epstein files? Like, that's what they were getting. And there is that line. And whenever that line exists, we have a moral responsibility to highlight it. And anytime it creates a gap between Trump and his followers, we have a moral responsibility to shove a crowbar in the gap and wiggle it back and forth all day long.
Yep. And I responded to her, and I thanked her, and I retweeted her, and I said, here's how we do this. This is how we get out of this. We don't have to agree on anything else, but we should agree on, one, this is America, and this should not be happening in America. And two, this is America, where we should be able to disagree without threatening each other's lives. Those are two basic things I would like from all Americans right now. That would be great. Those are basic things, easy things. If that MAGA person, who is a real person, she's a real person, and she still, I saw some of her other tweets, and I saw the way she misused the word Antifa. Yeah, I'd like to knock Antifa around. Okay, well, let's just dial that one down. But here's that common ground. We found it. I found common ground with you. And the common ground is the land we live on. This land is your land. This land is my land. This land is stolen land. But anyway, it's still below. We're all on it together, correct?
I will not sit by while you dehumanize the Native American population and turn them into antelopes. They fought a war and they lost. Some of them sided with the Spanish. Some of them sided with the British. The United States is one of the only countries that fought a war with the indigenous people that were there and gave them reservations at all instead of just wiping them out entirely. There's a lot of hate and awful to go around in that part of it, and dehumanizing a people by saying it was simple theft, like they didn't have a part in fighting back in it, which they absolutely did. Or that the Sioux owned the land that they took from the Pawnee and then it was taken from them is not the same thing. Like, by the way, I'm going to start with it. This goes to Israel, Buckingham Palace, the native lands anywhere in the world, and exploratory lands anywhere else in the world. There are no magic rocks. There are humans on the earth, and they belong everywhere they get to. And that's that. Yeah. Like, the idea. Good Lord.
Well, what we say here in Portland, when there are land acknowledgments given at events, because they are here, we acknowledge the land. At the end, like we do one at Low Bar Corral, because they learned to do that when they were on tour in Australia. They do land acknowledgments in Australia because that land was very much stolen from the Aborigines. But here in Oregon, there are a lot of things named for the local tribes that still
which also
here.
Upset me.
And
don't get me started.
And
I have this bit in my act that I've said when you go up to Wisconsin and you're like, welcome to Oconomowoc. Like, that's a weird name. Where'd that come from? Well, it's named after the Oconomowoc Indians. Oh yeah? Where are they? You're standing on them. Like, the idea that you would name the town after the Indians that you wiped out to build the place, or somebody that was nice, that was a part of them at one point before you wiped them out, is also ick.
Correct. And so my whole point of all of this was, at the end, when we do our land acknowledgement, it says the land was never ceded. C-E-D-E-D. Ceded. We did not cede it, which goes along with what you were saying, which was, we didn't just give it to you. We didn't cede it to you. We fought for it. That's implied in the, it wasn't given.
Yep. That's totally fine.
So that's what we do. That's how you do a land acknowledgement.
It's what humans do.
You acknowledge.
Right.
Yes. That's what we do here. And here in Portland, and again, I encourage everybody to check my Instagram. You can pull it up right now, HAL, and see all of the destruction that we crawled through yesterday in Portland to march through the streets as I walked with my governor and my mayor.
Yes, right. And across the lava.
And
right.
Yes, we managed to make it. But you know, I don't know if people on my Substack, I wrote something that people on Facebook really, really love. Like, this should go viral. It should be on the Daily Show. It should be on Jimmy. Yeah. May I?
Sure.
Do you have a Ken Burns music bed available?
Could you make that
happen?
Let's see.
Because what we're doing in Portland is we're fighting back with humor. We're trying to fight back with intelligence and cleverness, and we're trying to, like, on my Substack, I wrote a Substack, another open letter to Trump, because I wrote him an open letter in 2016 that if you read it, it's just like, oh my God, I predicted so many things. But I was like, come on, like, please accept Ron Wyden's invitation to come to Portland and hang out in one of our neighborhoods. And, you know, we have a Ritz-Carlton. We have fancy golf clubs. Okay. We have fancy golf clubs. I can take you. There's 2 amazing steakhouses here. I will make sure you can get the most burnt steak you want. We'll douse it in ketchup. I'll give you a carafe of Diet Coke. Burn your steaks, not our city. He's never even been here. He has never been to Portland.
He's not going to come. He's not going to.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So
I
don't have any like Ken Burns old West music.
You have something
or what kind of stuff?
Like a little. You know, like Old West, sort of. I'm sitting around the campfire with the harmonica.
Yeah, hold on one second.
That.
I'll actually have.
Something
there's a
you'd
great
hear
way
in
to
the
do
Ken Burns Civil
Meanwhile,
War. Documentary.
I would like to remind everybody. Tell everybody about your Substack real quick.
My Substack
and where to sign
is
up and the Tara Show.
Yes, taradublin.substack.com. The Tara Show is Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Political Voices Network, YouTubes, and Substack. And I also have my book, The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story, at taradublinrocks.com, which everybody who really reads it loves. And there's a brand new review on it that's very nice. It says it should be a movie, and I don't disagree. So I'm trying to parlay my 10 million tweet thing into getting like an actual publishing deal and an agent and a big deal, you know, option so that you can be in the streaming series, Hal, because I know exactly what part you should play. And Ellen Barkin wants to play the rock star's mom, and Rosanna Arquette wants to be in it, and lots of other. I can if you watch your feet. Cameron Crowe gave me a blurb, so you know, like it's just it's all good positivity, and I want to make something good happen out of that viral tweet because, you know, my mind is worth millions over here, Hal. I'm an untapped writing gold mine, as I'm about to prove with this thing that I wrote off the top of my head, because the letters from the Siege of Portland are beginning. A little happy.
It's too fast. It's too happy.
It's too happy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know, something maybe
like
something from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" That like sad sort of melancholy. I have to hide in the backwoods and sleep by day and travel by night. You know.
Hold on. Song, strings, dramatic.
I don't know. Something Ken Burnsy. Something Ken Burnsy.
Well, you know what I'm using AI to do it, and I can't ask it for anything with anybody's name in it because it thinks you're trying to steal. I only You could try. Nope, that's too.
Americana. Try Americana. That's a little Spanish. A little flamenco-y. A little flamenco-y.
Yeah. It's like a Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, that sounds like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
I like this fun little tangent we're on, though. I like to talk about music more than anything, so that might work. Just turn it way down.
Yeah, hold on. I'll bring that down.
All right.
Go ahead.
It's really loud in my head. Is it loud for everybody?
Sorry. I'm doing what I can. Hold on. There you go.
Okay. All the things that we do in the name of art.
Okay. Is that better?
All right, ready?
Or
I
wait.
think it is. What are they saying in the chat?
I'll lower it.
I hope I haven't oversold this.
Is that better? Lower for you?
That's good right there.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Go
good.
for it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Dearest mother, I write from my 3rd floor bunker in the former Pearl District Here in war-torn Portland, the streets where we once proudly strolled with our Stumptown cold brews and kombucha are now littered with crushed cacao beans and burned pages from the aftermath of the Great Powell's Book explosion. This morning, we made our way to the demolished Whole Foods, despite the compostable detritus sticking to the bottoms of our Keens and Tivas. Whatever organic fruit remains is bruised and past its sell-by dates, but my neighbor Juniper believes she can still make enough compote to trade at the farmer's market. The salad bar is a husk of its former self, the bins empty of the glorious arugula and quinoa, and the scent from the rotting cheese displayed nearby hangs in the air. The shelves are almost barren, containing the last boxes of the less popular flavors of Kind bars, and everything gluten-free. The cats and I have been managing on a ration diet of Trader Joe's canned chicken and oat milk, but I fear their collective appetites will soon force me north to Petco. Greedy corporate cat food is the last straw, Mother. This damn war! I cannot attempt the hike to Southeast, where the boutique pet store used to be, right between the thrift store with the tarot card reader and the Korean barbecue place. Oh, Mother, when will we ever know the taste of a proper bibimbap again? I ache for the flavors of our once vibrant food capital of a city before the Trump troopers came in with their tanks and flattened the Japanese and Chinese gardens along with all of the food cart pods and pop-up tasting rooms. I shall write again if I'm able to smuggle another letter to that banjo player from that jug band I saw that one time. Until then, I remain your devoted daughter, Harvest. And scene.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
And
Ta-da.
scene.
Thank you very much. And scene. Thank you. Thank you for notes from the Siege of Portland.
Sure. Yeah.
It is available right now on my Substack, notes for sharing. Thank you so much.
Aww.
We have to, when we can, laugh at Trump.
Yep.
He's not allowed to steal our joy. So here in Portland, we're going to try to take this with as much humor and intelligence as we can in the way we push back. I got
to tell you, I've said this before, but it bears repeating because it's going to take time for it to get through. But he does not actually respond to outrage. If anything, it fuels them. The Stephen Millers of the world, when they see people in the streets throwing shit, it gives them like excuse to do what they want to do, and it lets them know that they're pissing off the right people. But if you're laughing at them and dismissing what they're doing, as awful as it is, it has more of an impact on them than if you are raging at them. Because if you're raging at them, they think this is progress.
I also mocked them mercilessly yesterday, and the tweet that I made from that has triggered them. It's got over 35,000 views at this point. Down at our waterfront peaceful protest march yesterday in Portland. 50501 always does this. We set up there's always a kids zone. Like they can make chalk drawings on the ground, and there's a cornhole game, and there's a tic-tac-toe. And there's a bubble machine. And so I took a picture of the box and the bubble machine. I was like, uh-oh, Antifa weapon of war coming out. And then they had the bubble machine going. So there's bubbles everywhere. And so I made a video. I was like, oh, no, Antifa bullets. Antifa bullets are bubbles. And what happens when one of these Antifa bubbles hits you? Oh, no, boom. Oh, no, universal health care. Oh, no, free speech. Oh, no, I'm becoming a better person. And just mock their language. And like while I did a live stream for a little bit while the speeches were going on and we were walking around. I was like, look, cornhole is there was a guy and his daughter, and she was wearing the tiniest little Vans, black and white checkered Vans sneakers. She was the cutest thing. I'm sure her name was also Juniper, but I didn't get that. But she was playing cornhole. I was like, sir. And he's wearing like a Father John Misty t-shirt, and he's got the beard. He's like so Portland. And I go, sir, you're indoctrinating your child with Antifa cornhole right here. He was like, I know, we're just rebellious hooligans here. So again, please, I encourage everybody, please check my Instagram feed, and I'll put more stuff on Blue Sky. But the sign game, right? Portland's protest sign game, so on point, the way they mock the administration, the illegitimate, like there was anger. But as I was walking around talking to people, I also encouraged them to find the humor to mock Trump in this, because again, has not been here. So a lot of people, specifically on Instagram, are sharing reels of using his the audio from his quote, like, "Oh, Portland, people are getting out of there. They don't want to live there anymore. It's like hell on earth." And it's people like the kids riding their bike through the fountain, and people are, they're playing frisbee and biking in the mountains and the waterfall, and it's like, oh, it's hell on earth here. Sure is hell on
right.
Please don't come here. Don't come here. This is one of the most beautiful days we've had. We don't want anyone to know what the weather's like. So it's really important. I'm going to keep that part of it going, because it matters that they, you don't understand what you're mocking.
One of my favorite
out there, right?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from history is like, it's an old English quote or whatever, which is that a single silly song did more to bring down the king than did all the protestations of the bishops. That all the bishops were all decrying the king, and the people were, there were protests in the streets and the like, as they were being led around. And it didn't do anything. All he did was send more soldiers, put people down, and all that kind of stuff. But it was when people in the bars and pubs were singing a song about how stupid he was, that it effectively undermined his relationship with other countries and that kind of stuff, where they stopped taking him as seriously. They recognized that people weren't afraid of him because they can sing a song. It's one thing, like, people will protest when they know they're going to die. People will go out into the streets, as we've seen in Iran and other places, when they know they're going to be shot down. And so there's an element of, there's an answer to the strength and people who are willing to die in these moments, but they are there with that goal in hand. They don't plan on living past that day. They know they can't. Right. And that's because the leader has a level of strength that they can't surpass, that they know is real, and but when a bunch of people can sit around and sing a limerick song making fun of the leader, and he can't do shit about it, that's when the rest of the world goes, oh, okay, they're not actually afraid of this guy.
So one of the things that we talked about before we planned the rally and the protest yesterday, we talked about trying to put together a flash mob and what we could do to humiliate him. And we may still do this. I'm not spoiling anything by saying it. In fact, I probably should start sharing it everywhere. We're talking about his favorite song is YMCA, which is just ridiculous, right? So I was like, why don't we write a parody song of YMCA and teach it to everybody? And then we do the flash mob, and it would be like, do your arms, M-A, it's no fun to be M-A-G-A, Trump, stay away. Like, very simple stuff like that, but it would start with, home in, get your boots off the ground. We said home in. Get the hell out of town. We said home in, like that. And then it would be Christy, da 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 da. And then I wrote a whole thing, and everyone loves it. And so we're probably gonna do it. But I was like, Christy, there's a place you can go. We said, Christy, it's called Mar-a-Lago. You can stay there, and you will find many ways to wipe Trump's behind. Boom, 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 boom. It's no fun to be M-A-G-A. What do you think?
It's
So
I would say it's so dumb to be, instead of it's no fun.
It's so dumb to be. It's so dumb to be. I like that.
Instead of it's no fun to be.
I enjoy collaboration and welcome it. It's so dumb to be. It works too.
That's what that's what I'm here for. I'm a lyricist. G-A. It's so dumb to be.
Stay away.
Right.
It's great. I love it. I will make a note. It's
glad
so
to be
dumb.
of service. Yeah.
You know what?
To be MAGA.
Resistance in every form matters. Every act of resistance matters. I will continue pushing for the truth and the justice and the American way, as we do. And in the last few minutes we have, I just want to encourage everybody to follow me on all of my socials, and I will follow you back, because the growing community of the truth is really our focus. Like indie media, boosting independent media, sharing independent media. HAL, me, my partner, Tara Devlin, John Fugelsang. Boy, John is killing it with his book, isn't he?
Yeah.
New York Times best-selling author John Fugelsang.
Yeah,
he gets to say that for the rest of his life.
That's right.
I want to be able to say that too. I want to be a New York Times best-selling author.
All right,
I want
we'll
to
get
go
at
on
it.
book tour with John. Let's get me a book deal. already. Overnight, like, when was the last time there was like an overnight success or a rags to riches story where somebody was like, nobody knew you the day before, but then the next day you were everywhere, like with a 10 million viral tweet? You know, when was the last time somebody wrote, you know, right? Why not me? I've been the little match girl of Twitter for far too long. I'm really, I don't want to ask. I don't want to be out there with.
We'd gotten past the fact that you were still on Twitter, and I held my tongue as best I could. There are a couple of areas where, like, you don't get a second bite at that apple.
I want to say something about that also. I went back to the blue check system in July because the Epstein stuff was blowing up, and I'm like, I'm going to exploit this fucker, and I'm going to see how much money I can squeeze out of him because I have earned that from the 10 years that I've been harassed by MAGA. You know what? If I can make any money from you, I'm going to make it, and I'm going to love every penny, because you think Jews run the media and we don't. You know, if I can get money from a Nazi, you bet I'm going to do that. You know what I'm going to do with it? I'm going to feed my cats with it, because that would trigger MAGA even more. This $10 million tweet gave me the best pay. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It wasn't crazy. It's not paying my rent by itself. It's contributing, thankfully. But it's the biggest one I've gotten because of the engagement on the $10 million, 10 million viewed tweet or whatever. So you know what? Okay. It's not going to stay like this forever. I'm telling you, it's not sustainable. And there will be a point where he's going to have to divest from Twitter. He will be forced to legally in some way. It's going to happen. And when it happens, I will welcome you all back with open arms, and the bots will be like, pfft. And hopefully someone like Mark Cuban will join forces with someone like Mackenzie Bezos, and we can create that town square that it was intended to be before Donald Trump descended that gold escalator and shat all over everything. And so when you sign up for my Substack, which I really, really hope you do, my latest entry is the open letter to Donald Trump, which links to my original open letter to Donald Trump that I wrote on Medium back in 2016. Mm-hmm. There are things that I said then, Hal. Whoever it was, I really should have made a screenshot of it. Whoever named me Nostradamus really, really hit it. And I'm mad that I didn't make up that name for myself. Because there is so much that I wrote there that has happened. That it's like, I don't know, maybe I know stuff. Maybe I know stuff. So please do that. And again, as I've said, if you follow me on a social media app where I'm currently not following you back, please ping me there and say, hey, following you, and I will follow you back. Growing this community of truth and sharing the truth is essentially vital right now, particularly when my city is being threatened. And as somebody who is visible and vocal, who has received threats, who had to speak to the FBI twice in the last month, I'm asking for you to keep sharing the truth about Portland, because if anything goes down here, by the way, yes, I have a lawyer. Thank you very much. I have a connection to like the most powerful law firm in Portland. In fact, I'm going to be meeting the partner tomorrow and a partner tomorrow. And my brother's a partner in one of the biggest law firms in America, but I'm not going to name them. And then also now I have a direct line to Senator Ron Wyden. Like I can literally pick up the phone and call his state director and be like, hey, issue got picked up by blah, blah, blah. Which I don't, again, I don't believe. I'm a small fish compared to who they really need to go after. But I'm out here and I'm literally on the ground. Like I have to go out into these horrific streets and buy cat food. So, you know, wish me luck. By the way, if it does happen, you know, like if our attorney general, for whatever reason, if his lawsuit is unsuccessful and we end up with troops on the ground here in Portland, it's not like they're going to be in front of Whole Foods. They're not going to be over at, right? No. They're not going to be at New Seasons blocking us from or Trader Joe's. They're going to be at the federal
It's just
building.
like LA. They're going to be, it's just like LA. They're going to be in the same fucking area that they were here in Los Angeles, which is, you know, downtown on a road hardly anybody uses, in a section of a downtown that barely anybody goes near. That was the funniest part.
They'll be posted up by ICE, and they'll probably post around City Hall and whatever federal, you know, the federal buildings. And that's not like, I mean, I'm downtown, but I don't live right there. They're going to be by the Moda Center, says somebody. Moda Center, which is a 5-minute walk from where I live.
Right.
So that's not fun. But we'll see. And
but even then, they're just guarding the building. And the thing is, and this is where I can't stress enough that, you know, I've always been inspired by what happened when the Nazis marched through Skokie. And the response from the people in Skokie was they closed their windows, shut their doors, no one showed up on the street, and they marched alone down an empty street. Like, no one fed into it, nobody gave them more attention, and it was over. And nobody, you know, like, nobody even plays video of what happened nowadays because it's just a bunch of dudes walking on a street. It never made it. There's no viral video to be made of that. Even if you were trying to, you know, make it a mockery, like playing it's just like, oh, it's just a bunch of Nazis walking on a street. It might as well be AI at this point because there's nobody there. And so there's an element, especially around when Trump sends his ICE people, go someplace else. Set up another, like, on opposite side of town, you know, have a concert and raise the attention
that's what
there.
We did yesterday. We had a peaceful protest nowhere near the ICE facility. I know people who are going down there. That is your choice. I don't go to the ICE facility. I'm a small human being. I can't run away from anybody. And if something hit me, I would go down hard. So I don't, and I don't need that. I don't want to be in a violent place. I don't believe in political violence as a solution. And I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want anyone to accuse me that I contributed to any act of political violence. I never condone it. Never, ever, ever. And again, anyone who's in the chat, whatever videos you're seeing, you're going to see the ones at nighttime with a lot of people dressed in black with their faces covered like Hal was talking about. Please hear me when I say that is a lot of manufactured bullshit for red meat MAGA to chew on. That is not indicative of Portland. That is not how we live. And if you watch all of the videos from the local media that was filmed yesterday at the protest, every single person they interviewed, every single person they said, all the same things. We are a community of neighbors who take care of each other. Ultimately, that's what our whole country should be. A community of neighbors who take care of each other. Period. End. That's it. That's it. And so,
and anybody who is actively trying to draw a line between you and other human beings does not have anyone else's best interests at heart, and their entire goal is making sure people don't get together and figure out how to solve real problems for real people who are in real desperate situations. Because caring is their kryptonite.
Right? So Trump is an abuser and a predator. What do abusers and predators separate their victims from their family, their friends? They isolate them. They make them go, well, I can't. Everybody's against you. Only I can
alone
take
and
care
hopeless,
of you.
right?
Totally,
and
predator.
And what are you smiling about?
Agenda.
Right. That's right.
So, right. And forcing his troops on Portland because he doesn't want us talking about the Epstein files. Suck it. We have our votes. She will be sworn in. You can't hold Congress, the House, hostage like this forever. Grinder, speaker, Jesus freak. And so, when Ron Wyden said to me, "We're gonna win," we're gonna win. The Epstein files are going to come out.
Yeah.
They are not gonna go away until Trump does, right? Like that's what's gonna be that sends him on his way. And the sooner MAGA embraces the idea that you won't die if you hold your leader accountable, just like we hold ours accountable, I think we will have found a whole new way to find common ground and move forward as a nation. Because again, we're supposed to just take care of each other. You don't have to be best friends with everybody. Just take care of each other. That's what this country is about. My flag, your flag, my speech, your speech. So there it is. And I love every single person who's here. Let's hang out on all our socials. Let's keep the truth out there. Remember, Portland is not a war zone. We do not need federal assistance. No American city needs this. No state in the United States should be a police state. Please share the truth with every Republican you see posting. Use my stuff. Use all of my videos. Use all of my photos.
Share my show as well. Absolutely. And remind them, by the way, and feel free to mock them to their face, so that I guess that states' rights, freedom stuff was just bullshit. Then, yes.
Yeah, I'm like, how would you like it if these guys were in your city?
Yeah, because they're coming.
And you know who's trolling me the most? People in red states. So I say, oh wait a minute, you don't think they're gonna come in your state? that's been relying on blue state money to survive for all of this time? You don't think?
Well, that's why they're not. That's also why they're not. Like, if you're in a state with inconsequential cities, right? That's what they're counting on. They don't matter.
They'll find a reason.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because
it takes one red state mayor to turn
because
on him.
The business leaders in those areas that are friends with Donald Trump want a certain segment of the population handled for them. That is
correct.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
You're awesome.
Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I'm getting my COVID shot on Wednesday. Yay, Democrats. Yay, West Coast Health Alliance. Yay, yay, yay.
There you go.
Stay where the truth lives, which is right here. I love you, Hal. I'm very grateful for your friendship.
Cheers. You too. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
There she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. Hi, everybody. Let's see. I'm going to shrink this in. Whee! I had to use this last second switch over because of I had a guess that he was here, and then OBS just blew up for a second. I think I need a system update. Probably happened over the weekend. So I'm going to work on that. And I will see you guys this afternoon for the regular show. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. Was that Hal's line? Yes. Almost. It was almost my line, which is take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. But that's actually from George Carlin. It's something he said in one of his last specials, and I just loved it. And when he passed away, in honor of him, I do little things where, like, for a year of my stand-up, I'll do something as that is a constant memorial. When my grandmother passed away, I wore all black on all my shows for a year, and that was the year I was doing because she was the only member of my family that actively supported me going into comedy. And so when she died, it was very meaningful. So I wore a black t-shirt, black jeans, black shoes, everything. And I did Edinburgh that year. And one of the reviewers, really liked the show, but had this issue with me wearing black like I'm all edgy. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I fixed it. Because I'm I'm so edgy. How dare I, I'm wearing all black all the time, like you're all tough or whatever. And I was basically black boxing it like a theater. Like I was just wearing plain clothes. Like a black t-shirt and black jeans. It wasn't like I was dressing like fucking Russell Brand in his like faux rock star costume, his poser bullshit outfit. So it was just weird, and I didn't want to go, hey, my fucking grandmother died and I'm doing this for her. It was none of anybody's fucking business. I did it for me and as part of what I was doing, but I didn't want to feel like I had to defend it. It was just so fucking odd, right? Yeah, my grandmother in that show, I would talk about getting her on a smartphone, if anybody ever heard that bit, and how she and my mom would sit in the back of my shows and my grandmother would yell dirtier. Yeah, but she was she went beyond everybody else. My mom has always been great about you can be whatever you want, and my dad has always been you can be whatever you want, just get good at it before you inflict it on other people, which I think has value. So they were both very helpful in that. But my grandmother was just the world needs laughs. Please be funny. You even if you decide at some point not to do it all the time, you make us laugh so much that if you can do it part-time even, it'll be a gift to the world. And she was very specific about that. So when she passed away, I mourned her in my stand-up that way without interrupting the show. And this reviewer in Edinburgh, I gotta find that review too, because it's such a weird dig. He's wearing all black. What's up with the all black? He's wearing all black. Oh, your family just said get good, kid. Kinda, yeah. My dad's especially that way with musical instruments. They deserve to be played, and if you're going to pick them up, start playing to the best of your ability. You don't have to be the greatest, but you have to be you. And you can only be you if you push yourself. I was wearing this thing yesterday when I went to Steph's party, and I hadn't explained it in a while. Somebody asked me specifically about it. This is the one that Rob Glenn made me. at his shop. He ground this out of, I think it's titanium or some shit. I'm waiting for it to save my life. Just boing. But like the kind of growth of this emblem being that you're not the best parts of you that you show the world. You're not the worst parts of you that you hide from the world. You're not your hobbies and you're not your distractions. You're the tension between all those things. That's who you really are. And you know, and the act of like, I suck at this, but I want to do it, but I got to get better at it. And if I want to make a living doing it, I have to be better than other people who do the same thing, or at least more unique or something like that. So you got to get at it like that. That tension is what creates the art you do, not the desire to copy somebody else's or whatever your art is. So anyways, there you go. My next instrument should be the sitar. Is that what you said? I don't have to, Chris, because I have a plug-in that makes my guitar sound like a sitar, and it's really good. It's really good. And I have a Johnny Million and I were talking about. We both have these Line 6 Variaxes, and they have a sitar setting on them. It's pretty amazing. You want to wear one of the skirts like the Arabs do, but you can't find them? Do I still have? Hold on. I might have it in here somewhere. No, where is it? Son of a bitch. Oh yeah. I got this when I was in Thailand. It's like a big mandrape thing, robe-ish thing that zips up the back and you put it on or whatever. And I gotta say, it's it beats a bathrobe and when you're free balling around the house. It's nice. It's a little burlappy because I never really, gave it like I don't know how I'm supposed to wash it. I don't want to dry clean it because that seems stupid. But I also, it never really got dirty. So, but it's quite lovely. And I that's along with my, where is this? These are my 3 big robes to wear around the house. Here, it's show and tell time, kids. My Templar Knight robe, and my Chinese robe that I got when I was in Beijing, that I wore when I was doing when I had to do my Chen style Tai Chi form for my teacher when I finished it. So those are the bigger ones. I told you, I'm a closet glam vestite. I play dress up every goddamn day. So, nightshirt kind of. Free ballin'. That's right. You know it. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. I will see you this afternoon. Hold on. Let's see if I can find, is everything so wonky over? Oh, I don't have to because it automatically plays something built in here, I think, when that happens. Maybe. We'll see. Wish me luck. Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't play the music, so I'll play my own. That's good. Audio on this is so screwed up because I'm used to using it for guests. Bless you guys. Thank you. See you this afternoon.